I'm just going to tell you a couple things. I guess if I were to leave you with the take-home messages for this project, when this lighthouse project is done, the lighthouse will be in better shape than it has been since it was built in 1870. It will be more resilient, perhaps, than even when it was initially built, because of some of the building materials that we are using that will be much more resilient to the salt air, to the strong winds, and to the environment. And then finally, we will have a much better visitor experience where the visitors will have the opportunity to really understand not only the history of the lighthouse, see its beauty and its splendor, but also understand that the lighthouse was more than just the structure, that of course there were lighthouse keepers that took care of it, and they were a critical part of its operation. So with that, we're going to walk out to the front and we're going to try to walk you through and give you a feel for the experience that visitors will have once the construction project's done. And feel free to ask questions along the way. I wouldn't, but just. Okay. So, can everybody see this conceptual image? This is just a conceptual diagram to give you a feel for what this is going to be like. So everybody that has visited the lighthouse in the past is very used to coming up to the restroom facility, the pavilion, and the bookstore, and walking through this one path and ending up immediately at the base of the lighthouse and the oil house. And so with our designers for this project, we're creating a new visitor experience. Now visitors are going to come behind these facilities through a pathway, and they are going to first come out to the location of the principal keeper's quarters, which is of course where the principal lighthouse keeper would have lived, perhaps with their family, based on which keeper it was. And that was the person that was taking care of this lighthouse initially. So we're going to walk you through this area. You'll come out of the parking lot, and this image here gives you a feel for then coming through this section here. And walking along a path, and I believe, Edry, is the concrete on this section of path going to be colored concrete? So we're going to have a bit of a colored concrete, and one of the things that I'd like to leave with you is every detail of this project, even the color and tint of the concrete, was thought about very carefully to make sure that it was either consistent with the historic look and feel of the area, or was actually complementary to, but sufficiently different. And you might say to yourself, well, wait a minute, wouldn't you want something that's new in here to match what was old? And the answer is, we don't want it to clash with what was old, but we don't want to introduce new designs or features into this landscape that would give you a false sense of history. So you're going to see when we show you some of the pathways that the original width of the pathway is going to be clear and it's going to be there, but you'll be walking on a wider pathway, and the bricks on those wider parts will be laid differently so that the public can understand that, yes, in the year 2025, because that's when it will be done, perhaps, we are now walking on a pathway that is this wide, but in fact the original pathway may have only been 4 feet.
So is that the parking lot on the new parking lot on the right too?
No, that is not a new parking area. This is the driveway coming in that's here to my right. and are now going to be on a pathway that is going to begin to come down and come down through this section here.
This parking lot's going to disappear.
This will no longer be a parking lot, so the bookstore here will be served. Their deliveries will come into the front of the store. There may occasionally be some deliveries through the back. There'll be appropriate landscaping features here to delineate this concrete pathway, which will begin to lead you into the lighthouse grounds. A couple of things that Stone and Lime has already done for us, which is already making the site look better. There were 2 sheds here that we've had in this location for decades. And we also have an old generator house here that served the lift station for the restroom facilities. All of these buildings are being removed and the site is being restored so that when you come in, you're just surrounded by the natural environment before you come into the landscape of the lighthouse. So this pathway that we're continuing to walk on that will be built will then cut through this vegetated area here. We're not able to walk through it directly right now because there's construction fencing up.
The other one's the small one.
But what we're going to do is we're going to walk around the woods here so I can show you where that will pop out and give you a feel for what I would call the grand reveal when our visitors come into this landscape. And again, the theme associated with the new experience is that we're starting with the location where the people, the lighthouse keepers that took care of this place, would have lived, and of course that was just as important as the lighthouse itself.
So you'll be able to purchase the tickets over here too, or is that going to be over there?
So Donnie's questions about purchasing tickets for lighthouse climbing. We will have lighthouse climbing when the project is complete. We are going to be transitioning to a either app-based or online-only lighthouse climbing reservation system, just like we have at the Body Island Lighthouse. So there won't be a physical building for the purposes of purchasing tickets.
Disappear too.
Correct. Actually, that building is gone. That building, we used to have a ticket booth along the pathway that is now going to be the exit to the landscape here. And following Hurricane Dorian, since we weren't selling tickets from that location, we removed that building and repurposed it on Ocracoke Island as the building that we utilize at our campground there. And that's because that campground building was completely destroyed from flooding from Hurricane Dorian. So the pathway is going to come out right in this location. And Edry and Stone and Lime have done a beautiful job of marking the pathway. Edry, would you mind giving an explanation of the different color flags and what they depict here? If you all want to stand here, you'll start to get a feel for this circulation, the set of circulation pathways that we're creating to allow for this immersive visitor experience.
Yeah. Hello, my name is Edry Ortega. I am the construction manager here for the project. So we are standing at the Grand Reveal. So right now, as you are exiting this trail, we can have a gathering space here. You can see the lighthouse. The green represents like the wooden bollards and rope that are going to connect them to give a kind of boundary and a guidance for visitors to kind of follow this path. The white is the new trail or the new concrete path. We have a 12-foot wide here, and then we have 8-foot wide paths that are connecting to the Museum of the Sea and the PQQ. So we are gathered right here right now, and then we will be kind of moving through the site on this path there.
This is going to give visitors the ability to see the principal keeper's quarters, the double keeper's quarters, which is the Museum of the Sea, learn about this facility, and then wrap around the landscape as they approach the lighthouse. For those that don't want to visit those two sites, there are obviously opportunities to cut directly to the lighthouse along the original pathway. That pathway today is made out of a brick paver or a concrete paver. It will be replaced with a brick and it will be widened. A couple other things that you'll notice about this photograph here is if you look at the principal keeper's quarters and double keeper's quarters today, you don't see anything around them. We will be restoring the replica of the original fence that was around it. And you're going to see that that is a common theme for this project. We're putting back important features that are unique to this lighthouse that have not been here for many decades for whatever reason. That being said, the exact alignment and distances of the buildings from each other in the lighthouse match the original installation at the 1870s location. And I think all of you know that the lighthouse, or the entire light station, was moved in 1999. So this path will continue. One of the things, and if you're wondering why are we doing this, why are we creating all these pathways, all you need to do is look around, whether it's the geogrid erosion stabilization we've done next to the path, or the fact that we have not been able to grow grass here for many years, and realize that when this site is visited by hundreds or thousands of people, that they're impacting the landscape because they love the lighthouse and they want to visit it. The particular layout here, the width of the path, simply have been unable to accommodate that level of visitation. So this will allow that accommodation by having these wider paths, and also guide visitors to see other views and vistas of the landscape and the lighthouse.
What is the most recent visitation figures you have?
For this particular site, Jonathan, do you have the most recent visitation numbers for this site?
We see, in the summertime, we can see upwards of 100,000 people visit here through the peak season. We used to have nearly that amount of people climbing the lighthouse.
So you're talking about the summer months?
That's mainly during the summer months.
Last month it
Wait.
was about 4,000 in January.
4,000 in
month.
the
Just
month
in
of January?
Vehicles
Okay.
or people?
Vehicles. Or I'm sorry, people.
Okay.
I think we, in total, have certainly more than 100,000, probably hundreds of thousands of people that come, because we know we had 100,000 or more people just climb the lighthouse, and many more people come than just that.
And I just want to make sure I understand the span of time. 100,000 people.
If you wouldn't mind just being patient with us
Oh,
on
no,
this
that's
one,
fine,
we will
fine.
we'll actually get you some exact
Okay.
numbers,
That's
and that way, and we can probably do that by
Okay.
the end of the day today. Great. Okay, so we'll continue down the path. A few other things that you'll notice, you might be wondering, well, why isn't the path just cutting right over here? The reason for that is there's everything you see and there's everything you don't see. What you don't see are dozens of geothermal wells. The HVAC system for these two buildings is called the geothermal system. So unlike the condensers you have outside, maybe for your air conditioner, this exchanges heat in the ground. It's a very efficient system, helps us be energy efficient, but we could not put this pathway over those wells. Additionally, you see construction fencing on the far end over what appears to be a mound of soil, and that is the drain field for bathrooms that are in the double keeper's quarters here.
Good morning.
Hi there. How are you? Great. Wonderful lighthouse you got here.
It's yours.
I guess you're right.
Yeah. So this is an example of this pathway, its alignment and its width is identical to the original pathway, although I do believe the original pathway was made out of concrete. These are concrete pavers. So this will be replaced actually with a brick pathway. The center of the brick pathway will look just like this pathway, and then to make it wider to a width of 7 feet, there will be bricks further out, but they will be in a pattern that allows you to differentiate that this is a new or an alteration to the original layout. And you can now see that we are on a pathway that parallels what will be a brick walkway there. And again, we worked very closely with the historic architects from the State Historic Preservation Office, including having multiple on-site meetings to try to install this path, because this path was not, that we're walking on, or we will be walking on, was not an original pathway that was here. And so the way that we're going to best be able to implement that to not attract more attention to it and make it somewhat complementary to the rest of the landscape is by adding color to the concrete so that it looks more of like a sandy path that may have originally been in the area. Also, a couple of other exciting things that are going on at this site. We're just having this project finished up, but this building recently received some work to restore rotted wooden siding, and painting. So the project is not complete yet, but we expect that to be completed over the coming months.
Dave, that's separate from the funds that are going to the Lighthouse then?
Correct, that is a separate project from the Lighthouse project.
What's the red line? The red line.
This line?
Yeah.
This is the same brick walkway that is here right now. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Edry, am I going the right way? The pathway is this way, sorry. We are off track.
Is actually where you get to choose. You go up this path,
Okay.
and then this is where you. So we are standing right here. So from this point, you can go take this curve up to the museum, and then or continue around this curve to go here. So
Okay,
these.
so just so I understand, so if you want to take this, you could then go around the back of the lighthouse. Is that the point of that?
Correct,
Okay.
yeah. Again, the opportunity is to really be able to see this lighthouse from different views and vistas, whether the sun's rising or the sun is setting, give folks the opportunities to take pictures of it and really enjoy the site. So we're going to continue. I'd like to.
This one.
I guess I'd like to go this way.
We're going this way.
So, hey, Mike. Okay. So, can I have Ed and Chris and Lindsay, do you want to come up? Yeah, I can do it, yeah. So, this is our team from Stone and Lime, and I'm going to have them introduce themselves. Go ahead, Chris.
Chris Dabeck, Vice President from Stone and Lime. Ed Milch, General Superintendent, Stone and Lime.
Lindsay Gravel, Quality Control Manager from Stone and Lime.
We're really excited to have them. We had a lot of interest in this particular project, and they obviously had an incredible amount of expertise and skill in doing this. They've done projects for other national parks and for other historic structures, including lighthouses, and we're really confident in their ability to get this project done. So in a moment, we're going to do a groundbreaking, but we thought we would give you the opportunity if there are any other specific questions to ask about the project, either of the Park Service or Stone and Lime.
I do have a question about I noticed the Fresnel lens are going to have a replica.
Yes.
How is that done? I mean, is there somebody that specializes in that?
Yes. This is a specialist artwork.
Artworks Florida, Dan Spinella.
Dan Spinella, yep. Yep. And he's working on that lens, and he's been involved in the design for over a decade for that. So, and he needs about 18 months in order to complete that lens. So
This path will continue around.
It will. This path will continue around, and everything you see on this lighthouse, whether it's the external metalwork, the glass, the paint, the masonry, Stone and Lime will repair anything that needs to be repaired, and it will be as good as new when it's completed. Also, and this is not the best angle to see this, but above each of the windows, the original pediments, which are an architectural feature that were originally above the windows, will be restored. And then on top of that, there will be a fence around the lighthouse. It will not be the vinyl white fence that you are used to. It'll look more like a cast iron fence with a bit of a spear point. And that is a fence that I believe was around, it's very similar to what was around the White House for a period of time, and is currently around the United States Capitol building.
Oh.
A very beautiful looking
Ornate.
fence. So we're excited to have that as well.
You talk about a replica of the fence that's currently around the,
A replica, yes. Yeah.
I'm not taking it from the Washington.
We're not taking it from Washington. No.
And I think I'd like to give everyone just a quick overview of the activities that you're going to be seeing over the next couple of weeks.
Perfect.
We've got scaffolding, 200 feet of scaffolding that's going to start being delivered next week. We're going to see approximately 25 tractor trailers full of scaffolding. So it's going to be nonstop, probably 3 trucks a week for the next 8 weeks.
Yep.
So that is starting. That process will take approximately 3 months to install that scaffolding, top to bottom. After that, we're going to start the coatings removal. Then we've got masonry restoration, cast iron restoration, which primarily is up top, but we also have the window openings and the pediments, the new pediments that are being fabricated. And then the work up top, the glass replacement.
At the lens, yeah.
And that's about it. Projected completion of end of 25.
How much of a challenge is the weather going to be?
The wind?
Between the scaffolding and the project itself, but in the
Yeah.
scaffolding specifically.
Yeah, I mean, the engineers are dealing with some of that right now. The initial intent was to try and wrap a lot of the scaffolding, but once they started running the calculations, they determined that that really wasn't possible. It was too risky with potential wind speeds. So you won't see any wrapping around the scaffolding, and that's something that we're going to have to, that's going to be monitoring on a daily basis. I mean, we do anticipate there'll be some days where we can't work. We're hoping those are kept to a minimum.
Right.
I noticed on the body on my house when they did it, they wrapped the very top of it,
Mhm.
the tower part.
Yep.
I mean, would that be possible to do? Or it's just higher?
Yeah, you know, it depends on schedule. I think they probably did that during the winter months to
Uh-huh.
keep work going. I don't think we're gonna do that
Okay.
here, but, you know, I guess we'll see schedule-wise if
Is it
it's necessary.
in extreme weather events? Would it be possible? Will the scaffolding be able to handle that?
Yes, it will be designed to handle
It's
it.
a fully designed system, yes.
So you'll be able to paint the thing too with that up there?
Yes, that's the intent.
That,
Yeah,
that
that'll
gives
give
us the
access
to it.
access for all the trades.
Right.
Right. And
Chris, do I understand correctly that there's also going to be scaffolding inside?
there is.
Yes.
That's right. We've got significant cast iron restoration work on the inside as well.
And that's a double wall, right? So how is
Yes, that's
the,
right.
does that add to some of this, you know, some of the issues in trying to restore the inner wall? I mean, that space between those two walls?
Right. We don't know what's between
But actually, Kip, we did a lot of investigations prior to this project. One of the problems we've had with the lighthouse is water intrusion.
Mhm.
And so our designers worked with us to install a humidity monitoring system where we continuously monitored the humidity outside the lighthouse in the interstitial space between the two walls and then inside the lighthouse. And the idea was that if the humidity inside of that lighthouse in between those walls was higher than one of the two others, that it was trapping moisture and there was a breathability issue that may require ventilation. And Jamie's not here, but I seem to recall that the data that we collected indicated that the humidity levels inside the two walls were similar enough to what was happening outside the two walls that the moisture intrusion was probably not related to breathability or ventilation, and that the primary moisture issue was really a lack of sealing and a degradation of either the masonry and the metal around the windows and other areas at the top of the lighthouse. So that resulted in the design and prescription that Stone and Lime has to really repair all those areas.
What about the, I know it's been an issue, I think, for Overcoat with the paint actually making the moisture stay inside. That's not an issue with this lighthouse, is it?
I don't know if it's an issue or not, but the contract requires that a modern, breathable masonry paint be applied, so
That's right.
presumably that's what will occur.
That's right.
Okay, which is not on there now, this modern breathable
I
paint.
think it was meant to be. I believe the lighthouse was last painted in 2014. Does that
That's
sound right?
correct.
Yeah. And so again, we're not. It's been a while. It's been 10 years, so it's not surprising that some of the paint is coming off. But we're not aware that there was any performance issues with that paint coating necessarily. But perhaps with 10 years of paint advances and your selection of a paint, we'll have an even better product.
Talk a little bit about the lens itself, the Fresnel lens. It's going to be a rotating. Talk about the clockworks. Some of the mechanics are going to be involved with that. It's going to make the different, or make it look different. Is it going to be a different signal? That type of thing.
It is meant to replicate a signal that would have been similar to what the lighthouse looked like in 1870 when it was still installed. Are there 24 flash panels?
Yes, 24.
So there are basically 24 flash panels on this lighthouse, and all of these lenses, which I believe will be replicated in an acrylic material. They're not going to. Each panel will not, or lens will not be glass. When the internal light, which is always on when this lighthouse is on, and that will be actually an LED. When that is lit, when that flash panel is in front of your field of vision, you will see a flash of light essentially. And so this will be the same pattern. It will also rotate in a speed similar to the way it originally rotated, but it will not rotate with a counterweight system like the original. It will rest, I believe, on what's called the chariot wheel system. And if you go to other lighthouses, you can see that, including the Currituck Lighthouse. But my understanding is that Artworks Florida is going to design it so that even though it looks like it's rotating on the chariot wheels, that it'll actually have more of a central axis that it rotates on. And please correct me if I'm wrong, but that's my best understanding of it.
That is all correct.
Shifting to the LED.
24 beams. Yep. That's it too. Exactly.
So switching to an LED. Currituck initially, what they had at Currituck Beach Lighthouse, they changed the color. So what's been learned from other lighthouses have gone from incandescent to LED, and what's going to be applied here?
Yeah, so we'll certainly be speaking with them, and we've already had some discussions with Dan Spinella, who is their subcontractor with Artworks Florida, about the color temperature. Anybody that switched out their lights in their house probably has bought a bulb that looks too blue or too white and then bought a different one, and some of them are even adjustable. So he's working with us to try to find a bulb that is going to be both reliable and do the best it can to match the temperature. I'm sure it won't be exactly the same as an oil lamp, but they'll do their best. We also have some experience at the Cape Lookout Lighthouse where an LED was put in as a light source that actually I think is essentially the same LED that will be put at the top of this lighthouse as an interim light, and so we're able to learn from them as well.
May I say one thing for the media? It's really important to note that the options are limited because the light must be Coast Guard approved, and there are only a limited number of those. Is that correct, Dave?
Yes, we are working with the Coast Guard to ensure that whatever we do is able to be, that the bulb and the visibility will be sufficient to act as an aid to navigation, because it technically is still an aid to navigation. So I think the two LED bulbs that we're looking at with Artworks should have visibility of approximately 20 nautical miles, which I think is similar to the existing rotating incandescent bulbs.
Do you have an estimate on when the light will be turned off? When the temporary light will be installed?
We do, and this is what I got from Edry, so Edry, correct me if I'm wrong, but sometime around June or July, I believe the VLB 44, which is the interim LED, will be installed. There probably will be a period of time required for that installation, maybe up to a couple of months, so it could be out then, and the Coast Guard will issue a notice to mariners that the light is out during that period of time, and that will function through the duration of the construction, maybe with some occasional outages, and then not this summer but next summer, when the replica Fresnel has been completed and Stone and Lime is ready to install it, for a period of time there will be another outage of maybe up to a couple of months, if that sounds right, before the new Fresnel is fully functional.
So sometime this summer, it'll go off for a couple of months. The temporary will be put in,
Yeah.
then same thing will happen about a year
I
later.
think that's the worst case scenario. Yeah. I think the Coast Guard is putting some pressure on us to try and maintain the light. So we'll do our best to get that temporary light in. That'll be installed on the top of the scaffolding on a platform.
Okay.
But I think the downtime, you know, the worst case scenario, as Dave said, you know, maybe it's a few months, but I don't think it'll be that bad.
And can you kind of detail what that temporary is going to look like, or what it is? I mean, is it?
Well, it's essentially an enclosed.
It's going to be very similar to
Fixture.
the fixture that is used in the permanent installation.
Okay.
So it's you know, the quality of the light will be added.
So it's not going to be just a regular old tower beacon. It's going to be
No.
a functioning.
No, again, this has
With
to
the
be
same-
Coast Guard
right.
approved.
Okay.
So
So it's got to match.
we're guided by.
They've been involved in the selection process as well.
What's as soon as that you expect it may, or you think it could be?
Switched over.
Best case scenario.
What, the best case
Yeah.
scenario and versus the worst case scenario.
Yeah, I think June, early June.
Okay.
When they've decided on the exact interim bulb that they're going to use and they're comfortable that they made that selection, we can pass that information along to you.
What's going to happen to the old airplane beacon or airport beacon?
Well, it's owned by the United States Coast Guard, so they'll take it out and it'll be up to them to do what they like with it.
So any thoughts about getting it and making it part of the display or anything like that? Has that been discussed? What to do with it? To get, Park Service get their hands on it?
Sam, you need to join our team.
I know.
It's a great idea. I don't recall hearing about that, but certainly that's something we can talk to the Coast Guard about.
As I recall, the Coast Guard was ready to throw out the Fresnel lens from Body Island, so I doubt they'll be that interested in the airport beacon, but that's just a guess.
No comment.
I guess just to sum, what will this all mean for, you know, the lighthouse and preserving, you know, the heritage and history here?
I think it will mean a lot. This is the tallest brick lighthouse in the United States, and I think a lot of the country sees this particular lighthouse as a beacon of America, something that helps to protect mariners. It's also, I think, an effort to honor the folks that took care of this lighthouse. There were 36 lighthouse keepers whose names are actually engraved.
83.
What's that?
83 lighthouse keeper, 36 stones.
36 stones, sorry. Those stones actually will also be reinstalled in this area again as a testament to all of the work that they did to keep this lighthouse going, to take care of it, and to protect mariners and others off of the coast. So it's an exciting project and it's an important part of our heritage.
Where will the stones be reinstalled?
So the current design has this, so the rest of the story. We get to the lighthouse, you now have the opportunity to continue on a path that way or go around the lighthouse and see it from all angles, which is really exciting. Not that you couldn't do that now, but this is really going to facilitate that visit and that experience. Then the idea is that you can exit the facility, and just like you might exit a facility at a museum or an aquarium, you'll go past the bookstore here and have an opportunity to purchase educational products about the lighthouse, learn more about it, and the restroom facility, and make your way back out to your car in the parking lot. So that's what that experience will look like. So to answer your question about the stones, the current design has those stones being placed in a bit of an alternating pattern on the pathway as you go out towards the decking and the restrooms and the bookstore. We are considering another placement of those stones. To us, what's most important about those stones is that they're visible. People have an opportunity to see them and, again, understand the people that help to take care of the lighthouse. So we have some discussions about a slightly different location. We'll be refining the final design, in the coming months and making a decision.
Where have the stones been so far?
So the stones up until about 2015 were actually left on the beach in the general arrangement of where they were when the lighthouse was moved. And we were having a really hard time. As you know, we have a very dynamic coastline, a lot of erosion. We have days where the waves are breaking in the parking lot. by the jetties there, by the old lighthouse site. So we worked with the community and others, including the Outer Banks Lighthouse Society, and developed a design for an amphitheater arrangement that was at the edge of the gravel path there, right next to the parking area. And we were really proud of that design in our work with the Outer Banks Lighthouse Society. But to facilitate this project, we did have to remove them. And we actually think that the new placement of the stones will, I think, highlight the importance of the lighthouse keepers even more as folks exit this site.
So where are they at right now?
They're being temporarily stored in an administrative area next to our maintenance facility.
Okay, so they're still relevant.
Yeah.
What about the oil house? What's going on there?
The oil house will also be restored. You can see there's actually a framework, that's what you're looking at right now, of a canopy that will be removed. The windows that are on in this building, I don't believe were originally there, so we will be bricking them up, meaning putting bricks back into the placement of where the windows are. There'll be additional masonry repairs, maybe some repairs to the flooring and the inside of the lighthouse, but the oil house, but generally there will be restoration activities there as well. Anything you want to add on that, Ed? Or?
Just that we're replacing the door as well to something more architecturally appropriate.
Great.
On the oil house?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, John.
On the walk over here, Dave, what kind of interpretive panels and education for visitors will there be along this pathway?
Edry, would you like to answer the question?
Yes, there will be. Along is so that conjunction where we got to choose, there'll be some interp signs there, and then the beginning of the path there'll be some visitation and interp signs as you are approaching, and then at all of the moments where you can like stop and gather, there'll be signs there as well, so you can read them.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Dave, can you talk about the visitor experience for now, meaning from now through the project? I know it's going to be kind of in stages, but what visitors that come over the next 2 years are going to see, what they're not going to be able to see, things like that?
Sure. Well, I'd start by saying excuse our mess during this project, but the wait will be worth it. There is going to be limited visitor access to the site. We are going to work with Stone and Lime to try to always retain some level of access so folks can get some view of the area, although it will be under construction for a long period of time now, and some access to the Museum of the Sea, which is the double keeper's quarters. But it will be limited, and we will be working with Stone and Lime to try to provide some consistency and clear communication about how you can access the site and what to expect. So the message we would have to folks that want to come and see the lighthouse is please come, please plan to visit, but plan your trip. Come to our website so you can learn about the areas that are open and we can manage expectations as this project progresses. Anything to add?
No.
Do you imagine there will be set hours when there will be public access?
Our goal is to have public access during all normal hours like we do now, but there could be some times where for a period of time the entire site would be closed for one reason or another, and that would be up to Stone and Lime to work with us on, and only if necessary.
Well, yeah, I mean, this might be like a picayune question, but it used to be that you could drive up to the parking lot after hours and walk over here like all different hours of the night. Are you going to have this like, guarded, or, signage saying you better not come in here?
Well, I think what you see now with the fencing will remain throughout the project, right? It's a safety risk, frankly, so.
Yeah.
It'll be electric flow.
We've identified our secure perimeter pretty well, and we're confident that that's what we need to do to keep people safe, both pedestrians and visitors, but also construction folks.
We do not intend to close the area during nighttime hours, but of course certain areas both during the night and daytime will be off limits based on their construction fencing. Okay, any other, maybe one final question before and we're going to be here afterwards so we can continue to answer questions. And any last question before we break ground? No questions. Great. Okay. Well, yes, Mike.
This is a ceremonial groundbreaking.
I got it.
Would you like to be broken?
I'd like to get a digital copy.
Yeah, can I just get a shot of that?
Of course. You want you want it in the sun? So
Well,
you can see it a bit better?
Probably,
We can actually probably email it to you as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that,
Okay.
yeah, that would,
Yeah.
Yeah, that
email
would
would
be
be
good.
fantastic, yeah.
Mike, send that out.
Yeah.
We'll get it over to Mike so you all have it, yes.
You don't get off, Lindsay.
Oh, come on.
Somebody's got to hold the sign. Would somebody be able to hold the sign for Lindsay?
I'd like to point out right now that the photo off because the ground is very hard and I'm not strong.
Oh, I caught that.
All right.
Lindsay.
Lindsay. Yeah. All right.
Good?
Yeah. 1, 2, 3.
Got it.
Great.
You're not going to toss any dirt?
We don't want to mess the site up.
I did. It was a little bit. Yeah. Did you get a picture of it? Yeah.
How you doing? Nice to meet you. See here. I hear about you. I've never met you.
Good to be seen and heard.
So we're going to hang around for a few minutes. Happy to answer any questions. We're here.
Done. Look at that. All right. Okay.
You want to know?
Yes. Get one with just her. I'm gonna get one with her and I.
There you go. And then real close up. Now 1, 2.
Yay.
I tried to pause it and it just went to some.
Yeah.
You can see if it was, you could just do an airdrop to me.
all of the elements need to be replicated, right? But each cast iron element needs to have a specific form made for it, and then they forge the new cast iron elements. So that whole process is probably about a 6-month.
Okay,
per
the challenge with
element.
the cast iron work is that all the elements have to be,
They have to make unique molds for everything.
so all the elements have to be molded.
Molded and then cast, not forged. Sorry, they're cast, and that'll be performed by Allen Architectural. They're based in Talladega, Alabama. There's actually only 3 primary companies that can do this type of cast iron restoration in the country, so it's pretty specialized.
Allen Architecture in Alabama.
Yep.
Where in Alabama?
Talladega.
Okay.
You said that'll be like 6 months per element.
Per element.
How
yeah.
many elements are there?
There's a lot. There's actually, and there's new elements, right? So
Right.
Up above the windows, David mentioned there's a new pediment that's going in. That's a significant bronze pediment that's going to be sticking out, and that'll be installed over every window. So it'll look different. The lighthouse will look different from that standpoint. Sure.
Is that replicated in the original? Is that a?
That's
is
the
that
original. Yeah, replicating the original. Yep. So everything we're doing here is replicating.
It's a significant size bronze pediment above the window,
It
each
is.
window?
Each window, yeah.
Wow.
I think it
Okay.
sticks out probably, I don't remember exactly, maybe 2 feet by, let's say 5 feet
So
wide,
there's nothing
something
like that in there now?
There was originally, and it
Originally,
fell
but
off,
not now.
I think in the 20s or so,
Oh,
and then
okay.
they removed them all. So they're replicating that based on the original drawings. We actually have the original drawings from 1870, and they're very detailed, and all the cast iron elements are identified. They've got weights on them and everything. I mean, they're pretty impressive, the documents that we've got to work with, which is good.
Yeah.
It helps.
I covered this project in 1999.
Did you?
Yeah, with did you hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I couldn't remember because I
That's
keep
an amazing
remembering
project.
Irene. Yeah, that was quite the project. With,
Yeah.
Every day the lighthouse is just
Yeah,
slightly
every-
different.
Yeah.
It's an
And,
amazing project.
and when it was cut off from the base, one of the park rangers took me underneath the lighthouse, and
Oh,
I
really?
got to touch the middle rod. And
You're
that-
braver than me.
Oh, it was so cool! It was like the highlight. And then they let us drive the lighthouse.
You have a
Oh, really?
unique way to
Did you
go.
get to drive the lighthouse? Yeah. Jakovic, the owner of International
It's an
Chimney.
International Chimney, yeah.
Yeah. So they let us up, and then we put on the platform, and then we got to pull the lever and
Nice.
drive. We drove a few
That's
feet.
cool.
It was like so cool. I got pictures of that.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's really a fun project. But this won't be quite as involved since you're not
No,
moving
you won't
it,
have,
that-
you know,
At least you hope it's not moving.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, I'll have to see if they will allow it, but, you know, we sometimes do allow tours, you know, up on the scaffolding, so we'll have to coordinate that with the Park Service and see if, you know,
that'd be
Yeah, they
awesome.
took us on the
Kind of a
scaffolding
hands-on.
of the Body Island Lighthouse.
really.
Yeah, that was kind of scary, actually.
Yeah, it will be. This will be, I mean,
Going up at body when that was.
you know, I mean, the scaffolding,
Yeah, I'm gonna see everybody
the
out
scaffolding's
there first.
quite a production on
Yeah,
a
yeah.
project like this, you know, I mean, we've spent probably 3 months on the engineering of it.
Wow.
You know, and there's multiple engineers. There's the Park Service engineers, the scaffolding engineers, and then we've got a third-party engineer. Everybody knows, so that whole process takes a little while. It's
Wow.
challenging, yeah.
Compare this to some of the other projects you've done.
I think this is probably the most iconic. I mean, we've worked on Fort Jefferson and the Dry Tortugas. We've been working there for decades, literally. We've worked on the Castle Clinton National Monument, Second Bank in the United States we just completed. We're working on a big job in downtown Boston, the Easton Building. So we've worked on some pretty significant landmark structures up and down the East Coast. Mission San Jose, actually, in San Antonio, Texas.
Oh,
But
that's pretty.
that's
pretty-
that's from the 1600s. You know, very sensitive
Yeah,
projects.
San Antonio.
So we do projects kind of up and down the East Coast and a little bit to the west, primarily for the Park Service. But I think this is by far the most iconic. You know, I mean, everyone you talk to, it's like, oh, you're working on that. Like,
Yeah.
You know, always wanted to go there. You know, how is it? So it's an honor, really. It's going to be a great project. Yeah.
Beyond the actual structural challenges, what other challenges is this project going to present your company in terms of location and labor and things like that?
Well, the housing's a challenge for sure, and we're trying to nail down best we can, identifying crew sizes, for example, and all of our subcontractors as well, right? So scaffolding, for example, they may have a crew of 15 people. Our masons will have 8 people. And schedule-wise, people are going to be coming in and out, different trades, different phases of the project, right? So the scaffolding crew, for example, they'll be here, let's say 2.5 months. So they're going to have to find housing for 2.5 months, but then they're gone. Then they're gone until we call them and say, hey, we're ready to take it all down, right? So schedule-wise, we're trying to nail down best we can these windows for everybody to plan their housing. And it's obviously a huge risk, and especially once Memorial Day rolls around, that's going to be a challenge. And so, for example, if we need to find housing for, let's say we increase the crew size because we say, oh, you know what, the masonry's not going as quickly as we needed, we need 4 more masons. Well, where do we put those 4 masons? So if you all have recommendations, please send them along. But that's really something that's been ongoing for us. And then making sure our subcontractors have the plan as well, and making sure we're communicating that, hey, when Memorial Day rolls around, it's busy, so get your housing now for the summer months. I think that's logistically, that's our biggest challenge.
Materials-wise, what's some of the challenges facing?
Well, everything here is going to be custom made, right? So brick, for example, it's going to be a custom brick. That's at a minimum a 6-month lead time, 40,000 brick, right? So making sure that elements like that, the cast iron I was mentioning earlier, cast iron's the same thing. Every cast iron element is minimum 6 months, right? So if we identify something on the building that's got to be replaced, right, and the drawings do indicate certain elements that need to be replaced, but if we encounter additional elements, it is, immediately like, okay, we've got to get a shop drawing for this, we've got to get it approved, we've got to get it into fabrication. But from the moment we identify it to the moment it gets on site is minimum 6 months, And on some elements that may have structural components, it could be even longer because we've got engineered drawings and stamps and sign-offs, different parties. So that's going to be a challenge. I think we have an idea of what the unforeseen conditions are going to be, but you never really know until you get into it.
Well, you've worked on dry tortugas, and really the logistics of getting those materials here, this is a piece of cake compared to that.
That's true. That's true. There's some challenges. I mean, for example, the concrete, right? We've got a custom tinted concrete that's going to be coming from, I think Lindsay was like 2 hours away. It's like, so that's not typical.
Where's it coming from? Or do you have a general idea? Location? Oh, okay.
It was at midtime.
Okay.
Yeah.
September.
Yeah, we can look that up for you. But that's not typical to have a concrete supplier from 2 hours away. But it is better than Fort Jefferson, where it's a 2-hour ferry ride, or a plane ride, where we're literally everything we do there is on site. You have to make the concrete on site. So it's not quite as
You talked about the concrete coming from just inland. How about the brickwork? You said 40,000 bricks. Is that in North Carolina? Is that North Carolina?
We're actually just sourcing that right now,
okay.
So not quite sure. What's interesting is we do have the original documents are pretty thorough, and the HSR, the historic. What's the HSR stand for?
Sorry?
The HSR, historic structural report. Sorry. But the historic structural report gives a very detailed timeline of the history of the lighthouse and where some of the elements came from. So I think the brick was from Maryland, for example.
Oh, okay.
So we're trying to figure out, okay, can we still get that from Maryland? Is there a supplier there in Maryland? And we're working through that right now.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Is there any granite
Yes.
that you have to replace?
Yes,
or-
there is, and we're trying to
As
source
I-
that. So
as I
if you have any
recall.
recommendations, because this is challenging. This is a
As I
really
recall
challenging
Now,
grant.
I know the
Yeah.
Wright Brothers is made from North Carolina granite. Is this from North Carolina?
We think it is. We think it is. I mean, the
Okay.
original specifications call for a local granite. What's interesting, though, is you can't really see it now because it's really dirty, but this granite has got veins of it looks like reddish veins in it. And a lot of the North Carolina granite that we've been sourcing is much more consistent. So I don't know. We're gonna have a tough time sourcing that. I think, unfortunately, maybe we can find something salvaged, something somewhere locally. And we've done that before. Actually, like Second Bank in Philadelphia, that marble, Lindsay worked on that project as well. We had to source the original marble from a quarry that was closed 100 years ago. So it's like literally finding somebody that's got it in their backyard. Like, hey, can I buy this from you? And we're gonna put it into the building.
How much granite are you talking about? What are you?
It's not a lot. I think we've got a couple elements at the base, right, Lindsay? I mean,
Yeah, it's a minimal amount. There's some repairs going on and minimal replacement.
I think the pediment at the main entrance there, I think that gets not replaced, but it gets repaired. There's
On the front door.
right,
Getting a replacement. Yeah,
right,
large cracks.
right, right.
Under construction. We will.
So yeah, we're working on that one. We don't have a good lead on that one, unfortunately.
Are you doing any work at all in the lantern room to restore it before the lens? I mean, before the lens goes back.
Yeah, I mean, there's cast iron restoration work all around that. That happens. New coatings as well. Yeah. New glass. I think we've got new glass going in as well.
We will.
So.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, we're really touching every surface, inside, outside.
Debris, construction debris, a lot of construction fencing, including chain link fencing, to keep them safe, and the construction workers safe as well.
So the exposed, I'm just curious, the exposed paint at the top,
Yep.
next near top.
Yeah, it's peeling.
That's just normal. That's just normal wear and tear. I know
Right.
on the back side
Yep.
is where the
They did a mock-up.
the blasting tests were done. So,
Mhm.
but that actually is just normal. Right?
Right.
No, I think
And that-
just gonna grab that one.
Okay, I might be coming in because I had some other talk to people there.
Sure.
So when you're taking that off, in the past thing they use is like a ground up walnut shell
Sure.
or something. Is
Sure.
that?
We don't know yet. We're gonna have to complete several mock-ups to determine the best method
Okay.
to remove it. Walnut shells is an option. Chemical stripping is an option. We'll probably end up doing a half a dozen different samples to evaluate which is most effective. So we don't know yet, but as soon as the scaffolding goes up, it'll happen pretty quickly.
And on the inside there, that's also that's being repainted too. Right?
I'm sorry.
The inside.
The inside will
be,
yes, it
yeah.
will. Yep, and all the cast iron elements as well.
And that's fairly extensive.
It is, yeah, and I think most of the interior work is going to be rainy day work.
We're gonna head over now. Do you want to meet us over there?
I can go over.
You want to go now? Okay. Steve, thank you. And that was great.
Oh, it's a tremendous
So tomorrow at 8 a.m. is when the site
impressive landmarks. With both of us.
I'm going to try. If not, I'm going to be here.
And if there's a priority, 105 is 800 priority.
That's going to wrap it up on our live media day coverage here at the Cape Hatteras Lighthouse Restoration project, which is now underway and going to take at least 18 months. So 2025 should all be done. We'll have full coverage for you at samwalker@obxnews.com. Talk to you later.
You know where the parking area is? Okay, so we're just gonna